With me now, editor-at-large with the Australian newspaper, Paul Kelly. Paul, thanks so much. Where do we start as we look back at 2020? But I want to start in the United States with Donald Trump, because this is a continuing story and we don't know how he's going to play this period, which has been a fundamental part of the United States Republic, and that is the peaceful transfer of power.
Well, what we've seen in the last few weeks, Kieran, is extraordinary. We've seen Donald Trump striking at the democratic system, striking at the election result, resisting the will of the people, going to the courts and being repeatedly rebuffed, but making it clear that he still feels that this election was stolen. Now, this creates an enormous difficulty for President Biden and the Biden administration. It will be a question of legitimacy. What proportion of the American people will buy the Trump line? 20%, 30%, 40%? I mean, this is an unprecedented situation. So that is going to be an enormous internal domestic challenge for the United States. How fragmented will America be?
Yeah, it is extraordinary to think about the numbers of people who will buy into that conspiracy because it's being peddled by the president, no less. I wonder the challenge, though, for the Republicans to manage that, because they've tried to handle him carefully over the 4 years, and they'll have to for the foreseeable future. But what are the political ramifications of having Trump out there doing this when he didn't win this election? He won 70 million votes, but he did not win enough to secure the Electoral College. So this, to me, looks at a real challenge for Republican officials and lawmakers for the foreseeable future.
Well, that's the critical point, isn't it? I mean, Trump lost. I mean, he lost the election. Now, you can argue that if it hadn't been for the pandemic, he might have won, but the fact of the matter is he lost. And the dilemma the Republicans face is they took the demon into their house and they won with him. They won with him 4 years ago. But the fact of the matter is that Trump was a house wrecker. And he's changed the nature of the Republican Party. He's wrecked much of the party. And the party's now got this terrible dilemma because there's a constituency out there that's still loyal to Trump. But at some point or other, the Republicans have got to purge Trump from their house. Now, that's going to be a very difficult task. When do you do it? How do you do it? What will the price be for doing it? So that's the dilemma they face.
Yeah, it's a huge one. And for the Democratic Party, the flip side is that they look like they've got a bit of a clear run in that sense, in terms of unity at least. They've got 78 million votes behind them. What have you made of the Biden appointees who start as president-elect?
I think all the signals from Biden in terms of the appointments so far is that Biden wants to run as a centrist. Now, that's good. The question is whether the Democratic Party will allow him to do that or whether the progressive wing will get too frustrated. Now, what he'll do, while he's a centrist, he's going to run very prominently on climate change. And that is a matter of, I think, belief for Biden and John Kerry, but that will help to pacify the progressive wing of the party. But I think the other fascinating issue about Biden is Biden knows he will be a one-term president. This is what makes him unique. For all the other presidents since World War II that have won office, they always aspire to a second term. Well, he knows because of his age that won't happen. So I think psychologically, one of the fascinating things is whether this strengthens Biden and empowers Biden in terms of the way he conducts himself and relates to the American public. And finally, we've got to bear in mind he is a creature of the Senate. Unlike President Obama, who did not know the Congress, Biden does.
Yep, and has friends across the aisle, the way that chamber works. It's going to be interesting to watch, but your analysis there about one term, it sort of frees him up, you would think, potentially, which would be amazing to watch very closely as we do. Now,